Thanks for tuning in. We're coming to you guys live from all over the place, actually. We've got a little bit of Mexico, a little bit of the United States, a little bit of Canada via Mexico. And actually, Daniel, I didn't get where you're originally from, but I'm going to make the European guess here.
Pretty close.
So, in any case, we're talking about, as a yoga entrepreneur in 2021 and moving forward, how do we start to look at blockchain, cryptocurrencies? I mean, this is a massive conversation that's been taking place for years of time now, but we're at a moment in time where it is, I think, I'm of the opinion that we're on the precipice of this becoming a larger integral part of our regular day-to-day lives. So we wanted to bring Daniel on to have this discussion with us. For those of you who don't know, for this crypto talk that we're going to be going through today, Daniel is I love this bio here. Dedicated catalyst to transform the way people operate in business and in life. He's a global master trainer, heart math coach, leader, speaker, and international best-selling author in over 11 different countries. So, Daniel, maybe I'll pitch it to you, my friends. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you arrived here, which is, yo, Rosa, how you arrived here. Yeah, let us know you're here as you guys are logging on. Just leave a comment on whatever platform you're on and we'll see it here. Yeah, how did you become a crypto expert? How are we here today having this conversation?
Cool. Well, thank you very much, guys, for having me on. And hello, everyone that's out there. Originally from the UK, by the way, just so we get a little bit more close on that. So I've been in business for most of my life. I grew up in family businesses, and anyone that's been in a family business will know that it is a mild form of slave labor from a very early age. And that kind of set a lot of the backgrounds for myself. I did advanced computing at college way before computers and the internet were what they are today. And I definitely found my Midas touch. I think everybody has a thing in their life that when they kind of find it and it just works for them. So computers and myself and technology have been hand in glove my whole life. And I would say probably in and out of businesses and growing them for all the way through into my 30s. And me and my partner, we sold everything a handful of years ago to just totally change direction. We'd slowly started moving more and more into the entrepreneurial space. We ran huge events for thousands of people. And we let go of all of that to just start to, as we would say, follow the whispers, just to listen to spirit and see where things take us. And there was a period where I looked back at everything I used to do as like, oh, well, I've wasted my time, sort of thing, doing all these other stuff. And when I first found crypto about 5 years ago, 2017, I didn't really kind of get it to begin with, but as all the time went forward, as I started to understand it more and more, I realized that having tons of experience in business, understanding finance, really enjoying tax, please don't berate me for that. I had no idea I would enjoy conversations around tax and around financial planning. But then I think really understanding computing and understanding data, they all started to just merge together. And as a person who is really dedicated to around my own conscious evolution and humanities, I really started to see how blockchain and cryptocurrencies are a huge step forward out of the systems that have governed us for so long. Let's just put it like that. I'm not saying they are the answer. I don't think there is the answer for anything, but all these things started to merge together. And I found that my hands proverbially fit in the glove, so to speak. And crypto just became second nature for me.
I love it. So I like what you're saying, like the Midas touch, that thing that we're just, I don't know, there's a calling that we have, or let's call it your dharma or whatever it is. I definitely resonate with what you're saying. So as an extension of this, maybe we can start out with just a couple of really basic questions that I feel like we're at a point in time where people don't even want to ask these questions anymore because it's sort of been spoken about so much in regular media. But what are we even talking about? Like, what is crypto? What is blockchain? Why is this even a conversation right now?
So I'm going to really do my best because I'd love people in your community to be able to have free flow answers, to not spend a long time answering stuff, especially stuff like this, because we could talk forever. But a couple of things I always say. First of all, like, people throw around the word crypto, and really the word is blockchain, and people have heard of that, but I'm not as familiar with it. So I always use the analogy that if you were to take a beer, a tequila, and a red wine, and they're all alcohol, you could all drink them all, and they're all alcohol, but on their own, they are not alcohol. They are a byproduct of the word alcohol. So, and they're all slightly different. So blockchain is the equivalent of alcohol in this instance. And cryptocurrency and financial cryptocurrency is one use case of blockchain, just like wine is one derivative of alcohol. You could also exchange the word blockchain for the word internet. If we were to say that email is part of the internet, but the internet is not email. The internet is the catch-all term, and from the internet we have websites, we have booking pages to book flights and buy things, we have email, we have streaming services for video, for music, we have peer-to-peer file transfer things like old school Napster, sharing files with each other. So each one of these things uses the internet. And so when we're thinking about crypto and we're thinking about blockchain, it's just good to understand that whenever we're talking about all these things, they're all versions of a blockchain. And so the second part from that, then people say, well, what the hell is a blockchain? How's that different? And it's a little bit like trying to explain the internet to your granddad. Right now, we all understand what the internet is, even though so many people would struggle to still explain it. It's this cloud in the sky that you can't see that connects everything together. Think about blockchain in exactly the same way, except there's some fundamental differences. Three specific ones to be exact. The first one is it's by default, it's decentralized, which means if we think about things today, they're very centralized. Finance is very centralized. The internet is very centralized. Amazon Web Services runs far more, I think it's as high as 70% of the internet as we know it in the Western world. So blockchain by default is very decentralized. It means it doesn't have a single point of failure. It's transparent. So you can see all transactions or movements of data all the way back. So it's like a really long ledger of information. So we can see where things have moved and what's occurred. And at the same time, it's the word they use is trustless, which sometimes I think is a bit misleading. It should be like trustful. What it means is that right now, if the three of us want to do a deal, Kay wants to sell me this cup, and I want to buy it, but I don't trust her to, there's a moment where we have to exchange something. So we might use yourself, Josh, we might say, right, well, I'll give you the money, she'll give you the cup, and then we exchange. And so you're the middleman in this instance. And when you're working on blockchains, you don't need a middleman. It's completely trustful, let's say, but they use the word trustless. So they're the three things that define a difference between the blockchain and the internet. And I can go into them if they require a bit more instance, but I hope that helps you just expand a little bit on the difference between blockchain and crypto and where blockchain differs from internet.
No, I think it's a good description, and what you're bringing to mind, you know, from my perspective, especially because we are dealing with business all the time as business coaches, is there's always a middleman. It doesn't matter what we're talking about, what transaction, if it's to purchase a product, if it's to get something made, if it's to sell something, if it's your bank, if it's a loan, like there's always a middleman. And the result is there's always a loss of finance or an inefficiency of some sort. Maybe it's even just time as a result, because it's outside of your direct control between you and what you actually are trying to accomplish. So conceptually, it's really exciting to think about that, to make the system more efficient and remove one element from the whole thing. So maybe
if I could say one thing on that, like,
yeah,
you know, in all the work I do, I relate everything back to nature. Like, we came from nature, we're part of nature, and in my opinion, our answers to everything lie just by observing how nature operates. And nature is, it's not that it's super efficient, it is super efficient, but it has no waste. Like, the idea of there being a wasteful part of nature is almost paradoxical. Like every bit of nature is used in some part of the grand system. But with humans and human complexity, we have so much waste in all of our systems. We make too much energy, we put it back into the ground, we have waste everywhere. And so one of the things that blockchain allows us to do is have much more efficient systems. And by efficient, because that can mean a few things, what I mean by that is less wastage. There's less friction, there's less moving parts, there's less input needed to get the exact same output. And that enables us and can free us. So that's just an extra little bit I wanted to put in there, because it's one of the big reasons why I spend more time now in blockchain and blockchain conversations, because I can see the amount of waste that we currently create that 5-10 years ago I couldn't see it.
I've got it. Efficiencies, inefficiencies. I mean, we spend the first probably year working with the majority of studios identifying exactly what you're describing. Where are the inefficiencies that are unnecessary? How do we make them more efficient? And how do we optimize them for a better outcome, for a specific outcome? Dee just posted a comment here. She's curious about hearing about crypto being used in her studio because she did try it before. She even had someone pay her $1,000, which it's now worth $8,000. So she's just kind of excited about the potential of that. Yeah, thanks, Adi, for sharing. Rose is also commenting, waste made more efficient with blockchain. Did I understand that?
Yeah, it's not that waste is made more efficient. It's that there's less energy. And I don't just mean electricity. I mean stuff, people, documents, moving parts, offices. There's less required to do the same process than there is required to do the same process in the traditional sense, with intermediaries and middlemen and just the whole system of complexity that we have. That's what we mean. So it's not that the waste is more efficient, it's that there's less of it needed.
Versus sending money through a bank and or using a credit card.
Yeah, of course. And that's just money. Think about buying a house. I don't know what it's like around the world, but I'm fairly confident that to buy a house in most countries is a pain and requires certain industries to be involved that respond, that in my opinion work with whoever's shouting the loudest, and it can take, well, in the UK it can take about 6 to 8 weeks to buy a house. So that's because you instruct a solicitor, you've got a buyer over here who doesn't trust you because, you know, they trust the solicitor, and the solicitor goes to the land registry, and the land registry comes back with all the checks to say what's been built and demolished, and, you know, is the land on argon? Oh, we don't know. We have to get someone else in to come and check the contaminant. Just all those moving parts. The minute those databases are on a blockchain, and that has happened at least in Dubai, and I'm sure that was a year ago, you can buy and sell a house legally in 3 minutes. Everything. 3 minutes. I can stand with you and go, do you like it? Yeah, have a look around, cool. And I can sign on the blockchain on my side, you sign on your side. And in that single moment, all the databases are checked to make sure that it's not going to get knocked down. They're not building a highway over it. It's not built on contaminated land, whatever's needed in that local jurisdiction. And so long as all that information is available on a blockchain database, which means a connected live database, deal's done. Money exchanges, full trust. You don't need to know. As soon as I sign, I've committed. As soon as you sign, you have committed. As soon as the contract that we create is executed and all the terms are met that we just talked about, deal's done. So when we talk about less waste, because I've seen the comment here about carbon footprint, which we can happily come on to, we're talking about waste of people, of offices, of time, energy, effort. All of these they're almost non-quantifiable. That's what we're talking about with less waste. That's what we're talking about with systems that just move with more ease.
Right, because the trust is within the system itself, but the system itself doesn't hinge on a human being. So you don't have to worry about distrusting the other person, potentially. It actually
or waiting for them to get their job done.
Or waiting for them to get it done. I understand this fully living in Mexico, especially this last year, the bureaucracy of doing anything. And I don't mean day-to-day life. I mean, like, I'm here with a family of 5. So We have temporary residency that we did all ourselves and going through all the paperwork for that. We've bought a property and going through all that. Just using the example of buying a house, we didn't buy a house, we just bought land. But that process took 5 months of time to complete for all the reasons you just described. And there's we're talking about a raw piece of land. Like there's literally no reason for it to take that long, but it just does. So what you're describing sounds like a total dream to be able to just, and there you go. Because you're right, it has to go through like 7 governmental agencies to sort of get everything finished and signed away, plus the difficulty of dealing with lawyers and everything else on top of it. So, okay, so let me take us a little bit in a different direction here. We've kind of answered this, but from an entrepreneurial standpoint, like, do you even need to know how blockchain works? Do you need to know the intricacies of it? How deep do you need to go? How much do you need to know to be able to really utilize this in a business setting, sort of systemically?
I will put this back. I'm going to ask each of you one question. Josh, how does Restream work?
You're right. I have no idea. I was pushing some buttons.
I just pushed some buttons. And Kay, I mean, you could take your pick. Can you explain to me how a mobile phone makes a video call? If that's the same as Restream, how does a car work?
Absolutely not.
No idea. Like,
No idea.
it's one of these things. Like, you understand the car. I put some fuel in. The engine does this pistony thing. It fires. Something turns, and I want to say a drive shaft, and I move forward, and the gear stick does its stuff. Like, we just get in the car and we drive. So you can, if you're into it and you want to learn how a blockchain works fundamentally, then there's tons of videos to help explain that, from layman's all the way up to super complex. But at its core, it doesn't matter. I'm sure you guys use like CRM systems to manage complex databases of customers and payments, and you just need to know, where does the customer data go? How do I make an invoice? Or where's the booking platform? That's it. And Bitcoin's the same. Like, whether you're getting in to invest or whether you're getting in to take payments from customers, all you need to know is, okay, well, if I want to invest, where should I start? What should I put my money into? Why does that count? And if you're doing it for customer payments, it's like saying, how do I accept a credit card? The only answer is the answer. Well, you put this plug in and you can now take Visa card and MasterCard. Fantastic. Or you take this Bitcoin crypto plug-in and you put it here, and now you can take cryptocurrency. Fantastic. You know, at that point there, it stops. And the only time it carries on is if you genuinely are curious.
Great answer. So this brings us to another question that's sort of related, and that's that I can still remember, I don't know, it was Bitcoin first that was like, came on sort of the public eye. I can still remember learning a little bit about it and hearing about it. And I feel like its original purpose and the original reason for why there was interest in it and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, on this too, but like, I feel like it's shifted, because you made the point of investment now. So the question is, who should be looking at utilizing and participating in blockchain right now and or in the very near future? Is this an investment thing that you should be looking at? Is that its primary purpose, practically speaking? Or is this something that you should be looking at from a better way to do business? Who is this for, kind of right in the more immediate future?
Okay. That's a really good question. It's a really big question though as well. From my perspective, and it's difficult to not come from my perspective without my values and my bias within there as well. But everybody should be getting involved in, I'll use the term crypto, not blockchain, at some level today. How and why will differ, but there is, we're on such a precipice right now of a complete changeover of an incredibly old system. I'm referring to the financial system here, that if we look at it in terms of adoption, we are at the same levels of adoption of crypto as we are for the internet in 1996, 1997. That means the number of users totally, sorry, my Spanish coming through, the number of users we have within crypto totally is the same as the number of users we had in the internet in 96, 97. So everyone who's listening now, and for you guys, what was the internet in 96, 97? Nothing. Really, nothing. Like, I remember some web pages. I remember being on it. Most people were like, there's an article going around at the minute that's from 96, 97 that talks about it being a fad, and it's going to come and it's going to go, and it's never going to go anywhere else. Rosa says there was Hotmail. There was, and there was not AOL. What was the other one? There's some really big names from back then that have gone now. But the news going around was that this isn't going to be anywhere, and that was the first digital product that we had of that capacity. And so nobody had a frame of reference to look at it and see it. And so one of the things I'm really grateful for today is having, like, I grew up climbing trees, and then at some point had a computer in front of me. So I've seen that shift between the two. So watching blockchain come through now is like a privilege. Like I'm seeing something that's going to be bigger than the internet. Like someone once said, the internet absorbed telecoms. And once over there, a guy stood on stage, Alex Machinsky stood on stage in front of all the telecoms people and said, "You won't be here in 5 years." And they laughed at him. And they said, "We're telecoms, we're the gods of the planet." And they were like, he said, "No, the internet is going to absorb your whole industry if you don't buy some parts of the internet." And we know that today, all telecoms around the world runs through data, runs through the internet. Blockchain will absorb the internet. What is coming through blockchain is bigger than what the internet has done for the world. And I still can't even get my head around that sometimes. But you think about what we're on right now, these global audiences, the fact that I have in my hand a TV news broadcasting device, wherever I want, as long as I've got signal. So I share all this because the question was, who should get in and why should they get in? And my answer is everybody, because if you knew what you knew about the internet today, back in 96, 97, as someone said to you, who should be caring about the internet? You would say everybody.
Yeah.
Because you're either going to care about it because it's a financial investment for the long term. You're going to care about it because it's going to completely change business. And if you're in business, you should want to know that. Or you're going to care about it because it's the future and you're interested in making sure your skills are up to date. Like having an old file of facts system and someone saying, "Hey, a computer's going to come around and we're going to have databases and CRMs once a day. You might want to learn how to use a mouse and a keyboard." I always refer back to my mum, who says she remembers the first time she put her hand on a mouse and the cursor was going all over the screen, and she's like, "I'm never going to be able to learn how to control this thing." She remembers that really vividly. So blockchain is going to change the way we see the world completely, just like the internet has, but bigger. New industries will come out of blockchain in the same way whole new industries have come out of the internet. And that's going to fundamentally change business, interaction, the way we operate as a society. It's going to change so much. And on top of that, you have the financial investment, that this is the greatest transference of wealth we have ever seen in the entire planet. And normally, when there's a transference of wealth, poor people don't have an opportunity to get involved in that. Transferences of wealth usually happen above a certain level, whereby the amount of money you need to have in the game to play is so big that it rules out 99% of the population. Crypto is completely flat, decentralized hierarchy. That means that you can have $1 and have exactly the same investment opportunities as me with whatever, 100,000. And we've never had a system with such low entry requirements. And so that is a huge, like life-changing, generational changing opportunity. So you've got technology, you've got changes in business, you've got investments, you've got changes in society. All of this is going to be spawned out of blockchain. And so that's why everybody should, at the very least, be paying attention with a wider perspective of what is occurring right now.
Very well said, my friend. I appreciate it. It makes perfect sense to me. And I think that a lot of people can almost feel it as well, because the old paradigms, like things seem to have sped up. And I always think from a yoga perspective, we talk about the yugas and where we are in time. And we are currently, depending on who you ask, moving out of or have recently moved into Dwapara Yuga and are in an ascension path of consciousness, but of technological advancement. So, and that's speeding up as we go. So that little tangent aside, this is fitting for where things I think are going, and people can almost just like feel it. It's almost in the ether or something. I don't know. So then we've kind of answered this, but what if someone's just really not techie? You mentioned, your mom not feeling like she's able to control the mouse. We still are working with a lot of people, and admittedly myself in certain circumstances, like we're still figuring out how to use an operating system for a CRM or whatever. This is now this new thing that we have to learn. Do you have any recommendations if somebody just doesn't feel very equipped moving into this, how to approach it to start?
I'm going to try and not give like political answers whereby I'm like, yes and no. But it does kind of come back to, why. Everything comes back to why. Like, why are you doing it? And the reason I say that, we run calls every 2 weeks to just talk about crypto and help people with these sorts of conversations. And I always use the analogy that at one point we got this big influx of property developers into our group, who someone had recommended, and they kind of came in and they all want to diversify. So their business is property, they rent them, they flip them, whatever they do. And they want to take some of that money and put it into crypto. Cool. So they're in this box here, it sits there. Then all of a sudden someone will share something in some freedom fighter group, future, new age, anything like that. And we get this big influx of people who are coming who are like, I don't trust the government. I don't like the government. I think the fiat banking system is going to collapse. I'm only interested in what's best for humanity and moving forward. Okay, cool. So they go in this box here and that goes there. These two people will answer your question in very different ways. Your question was, I'm not very techie. How do I move forward? Well, you can't move forward until we know where you're going. And saying into crypto isn't an answer. It's a bit like saying, I don't really know how to travel the world, and I don't know much about the world, but I want to go on holiday. Where do I go? How do I do it? I was like, well, do you want to go camping, or do you want to go to Dubai? So that we need to answer these questions first. So, but I do want to give you a straight answer. So the two general splits is, I want to safeguard some of my money into something that long-term is going to do me good. A bit like, who was it in the comments? Oh, it's gone. Who was it who got paid 1,000 in Bitcoin? Yeah, perfect, right? She's over here. I know she's not in property, but that comment is about, let's just use the word investment, or finance. And over here, especially for your community, is I just want to get paid in Bitcoin. And then I'm going to keep those two kind of there. And there's whole conversations around all of them. If you're looking at it from an investment perspective, assuming that you're not very techie or haven't got much time, meaning you want something that's simple, that's efficient, that's able to just roll with relative grace and ease, then you want a system that contains everything. You want to be able to plug your credit card into it, your debit card, your bank account, all these sorts of things. You want to plug those into it. You want to be able to buy your cryptocurrency on the site, and you want to be able to store your cryptocurrency on the site, and ideally earn interest off it. And if you can do all four of those things on one site, that's easy. Where you live changes it. So in the UK and Europe, I usually recommend crypto.com. In most of the world, Binance. In America, maybe things like Kraken, Gemini, dare I say Robinhood, Coinbase. I say that because I try not to recommend those, but they are big brand names, and people trust them, and trust is an important part when you're moving into a new field. So you need to find the system in your space that can do everything you need all under one roof. Yeah. And if you're looking to connect and accept cryptocurrency, some of these things over here can do that. So Coinbase has Coinbase Commerce. Crypto.com has Crypto.com merchant services. Although they are separate companies, but at least it's the same company, same brand. But I've pulled up some links I'll share with you, which have got like 19 different global cryptocurrency payment services. And they're fairly easy to do. So the question was, I'm not very techie. Where do I begin? You know, it starts with, what are you trying to do? And speaking for your community, and you guys tell me if you think otherwise, that's how I see the two different actionable things that your guys might want to do, and they would be my very quick answers on them both. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think with this conversation, you have to start somewhere. So I think that's a really great, you're just making me think, one of the first things that we do with the studio is we've got to figure out your vision for what you're creating, and then what's your immediate goal, and how is that a measurable outcome, so we know we're actually achieving the goal. It's the same exact thing. So okay, let's but I want to get into a little bit more of like the practical application stuff. But just before we do, I love one of the questions that we put as you know, that you had in your sheet that you sent over ahead of time. But isn't it evil or damaging the planet? Like, what about the actual, how is this affecting the planet outside of the social element of things as well? And what about, there's a lot in the news right now because of Elon and everything, talking about crypto and blockchain with environmental impact, for example.
Okay. And this was also a question, I think Rosa mentioned it, like what's with all the news of the carbon footprint of everything. So where do I begin? We've got to pull a couple of different threads in for this. We have to first understand, one of the questions people often ask at some point early on is like, all these coins, are they all the same? You know, Bitcoin's worth so much money, why don't I just invest in something else? And there's this assumption that everyone's just making coins and all coins are the same. So if you invest in the cheap one, you've got more chance of growth. It's a very simple viewpoint to take. But there is a lot of differences between Bitcoin and every other coin. I am answering your question here, but I kind of have to just preface this. Bitcoin isn't owned by anyone, controlled by anyone. It can't be stopped. It can't be turned off. It can't be controlled by a government. It can't be sued. It can't be taken to court. It's like a thing that appeared, and it was created by a guy called Satoshi Nakamoto. No one has a clue who he is, or they are. No one has any idea whatsoever. It's the biggest enigma and mystery in the whole of crypto. Those points that I just made are very important, because every other coin can be turned off, or well, not every other coin, but a lot of them can be. They do have owners. They can be sued. They can be taken to court. And because of what Bitcoin is, and the second question sometimes people ask is, well, will they ban it? In my opinion, they'll never ban Bitcoin, because it is the greatest ticking tax time bomb in history. Why would, as soon as you ban something, you can't tax it. Governments are broke. You're talking billions of dollars in unclaimed or untaxed profits. And if they don't pay them out now, if they don't sell right now, they'll sell them in the future. Like, it's a constant, never-ending stream. So it makes more sense to regulate it. The old traditional financial system, by and large, in my opinion, and from what you read online, isn't necessarily in favor of Bitcoin. If you've controlled the money supply for thousands of years, you're not exactly going to be best friends with a mysterious money supply that people really like, that's not yours. That's a lot of power sap that occurs. So I share all this because the amount of FUD, F-U-D, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. There is no industry in the world that has as many acronyms as crypto. I have a whole database glossary we've been making of crypto acronyms. It's full of jargon, full of jargon. So FUD's a big one, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And in the last year, the amount of FUD around Bitcoin has exponentially increased. Why would that happen? This is my speculation here. I try and make sure when we're sharing facts and when I'm sharing my view. In my opinion, it would happen because the less people, average people, are putting money into Bitcoin, the more they're putting their money into systems which are controlled. The more they're putting their systems into systems which large institutional players already have vested interest behind and have invested in them at the beginning and everything. There was no IPO for Bitcoin. Didn't go out there and go, hey, I'm going to start a white paper. Anybody want to buy shares in it before we start this? You know, it launched, and the price of Bitcoin is relative to what people trust in it. People talk about intrinsic value. What's the intrinsic value behind Bitcoin? You pull out any note, a dollar. What's the intrinsic value behind a dollar? There isn't any. Oh, well, the government back it. But what does that even mean? It's value. For as long as you think you can give me a loaf of bread for $1, you'll take it. And the minute you think that the bread's worth more than $1, you won't. Look at Venezuela, like a batch of notes like this is $1 now, because people don't believe it anymore. The value's been lost out of it. So when we talk about energy consumption, when we talk about good and bad for the planet, we have to understand that there's a lot of news going around right now that has massive bias, and without understanding that, it's easy to get consumed within it. And the biggest one I want to share, and it's probably what maybe Rosa was alluding to earlier, it's the one everyone talks about. Well, Bitcoin is using the same energy as Argentina. I don't know if you two have heard something like that, like the size of a country, and that makes you go, that's not good. It's not good. But the last time you compared an industry's energy usage to a country, I would like both of you, because someone once said, I had a coach once, and he said, as soon as you say that's hot, you have to finish it with compared to what?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that. Compared, like as soon as you cast an opinion on something that's a variable, you have to compare it to something, because without it, you have no context. So when everyone starts talking about Bitcoin, and you know what newspapers are like, you know, when you say that Bitcoin uses the energy of a country, that makes you stop. But we have never compared anything to energy uses of a country. So then let's start to do that. And as soon as you start to do that, can I screen share or not?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, I can. 1 second. Give me a second. I hope I'm screen sharing the right one. Can you see that?
Let me turn it on for us. Yep, there we go.
That.
The point that you don't need to know every detail of how something works in order to use it effectively.
Exactly. So this is the energy expenditure of Bitcoin compared to gold and the banking system. I did the calculations on the energy consumption of Bitcoin to the I'll just turn my screen. How do I turn my screen share off? Is that gone?
Yep.
Yeah, I did the calculations of energy of Bitcoin compared to the aviation. That's not the right word. The airplane industry. What's the word?
Aviation.
Yep.
Aviation. Thank you. To the aviation industry and to meat. Not just meat. I did beef. Just beef, because I could only find the stats on how much energy it took to make one burger patty, or 1 pound of beef, or something like that. And when you look at, and when I did aviation, I only did fuel consumption. I didn't do the energy it takes to run an airport. I didn't do the energy it takes for all the back offices that manage all of that. I just did fuel. And I got to a point where, I mean, that chart you saw there, like Bitcoin was like here, gold was say 4 times that, and banking was, I don't know, 20 times that. When you start to look at aviation and beef, you're so high that even if my calculations aren't exact, it's pointless debating the finer details of it. So when people say that isn't crypto, usually the word is Bitcoin, isn't it bad for the planet? Or has lots of, I had a big debate with someone over here the other day, and a healthy one, where he shared that 90% of the energy Bitcoin uses is wasted. That is true. Like it's like 50 people taking a test every day, but only one person can pass. The other 49 have to take the test again tomorrow. That's waste within a system, yeah? But before we start to look at question it, we have to start to say, if the question is about taking actions that are better for the planet, first we have to say, do you fly? Do you use the banking system? Do you have anything that's gold? Do you eat meat? And I'm pretty confident soy, the energy consumption for soy is also pretty high. So do you eat soy as well? If you answer yes to any of those, Bitcoin's not your problem. And we really have to look at these sorts of things. So there is an energy consumption with Bitcoin and other proof of work systems. There are different ways of doing blockchains. But proof of work is the most stable and non-corruptible, non-co-optable, because some of the other systems aren't as well proven. And I'm not a fan of waste. However, for me, the fiat banking system, and when we use the word fiat, we're talking about what most people call a currency: pounds, dollars, sterlings, all these things. That's fiat. That whole industry is full of so much energy and waste that if Bitcoin can replace 25% of that industry, or if crypto can replace 25% of the industry, the overall net loss in energy is astronomical. It doesn't mean that crypto is super efficient, because it still could be more efficient. But if we've just reduced the energy consumption of one industry by 25%, that's good. And let's work towards more efficiency.
Right, the offset is still there.
Yeah, so there's a lot to share just to answer that question, but there's just so much within it that sometimes we don't shine the torch on, that I really try and just paint a big enough picture for people to go, okay, because large industries, BP especially, in 2007, I might have that wrong, they put a think tank together to once of a day, we never talked to each other about how green we were. It just wasn't a conversation, and everyone pointed the fingers at big companies. There was a moment in time where the narrative started to change, and it was about consumer action. What you can do as a consumer. Now that's brilliant. Let's all do our bit to recycle. But it's got to the point where we're like, how much do you recycle? Oh, well, I recycle 1 ton a week. Oh dear. I do 2 tons a week. And it's got very like, it's almost like, how green's your car? Oh, well, mine's minus 16. You know, it's us versus us. And we forget that even if all of us were super recycling tomorrow, 90% of all the waste doesn't come from you and me, comes from big companies, and we're all pointing the finger at each other. So there's a big finger pointing right now at Bitcoin, especially like, ooh, bad crypto, bad Bitcoin. And we should be pointing the fingers at other systems that nobody wants us to point the finger at, which are causing far more harm or far more waste and energy on this planet than crypto. That's my rant over.
I like it, my friend. Okay, I got to take us towards some practical application stuff now. So I'm convinced I want to be part of this. I believe in it as a system. I own a yoga studio. What is the next, like, what can I do to actually start to, even if I fall into this camp of like, I just want to be part of this from like a brand standpoint and from an principle standpoint, how can I start to practically apply this in my business? Because we view businesses as vehicles and potentially vehicles of positive change. The Yogapreneurs are a perfect example of this. how do people actually utilize this in their business? Or bluntly, like, I want to accept Bitcoin from people on a relatively regular basis.
So I'll answer that question, and then I just want to make sure we're covering fees and charges, because there's fees in crypto. You can. I'll give you a couple of answers. You could open up a crypto wallet today. What does that mean? Downloading a piece of software, installing it, generate a wallet, and getting an address. That would be all you need to do to get a wallet address. And depending on how and where you wanted to use that, let's say you're running retreats, which means you're having one-on-one conversations with people at different times. Someone says, hey, yeah, cool, I want to come on your retreat. Fantastic. Here's my Bitcoin wallet. Send the money to there. That is by far the simplest. You don't need tech. You know, it's not automated, but if you just wanted to receive some crypto, you just need a wallet. As long as you've got a wallet, you have an address. Addresses look complicated, but if I was to take your routing address, your account number, your sort code, your BIC, your SWIFT, and put them all next to each other, you'd have an address this long. That's all a crypto address is. You just copy and paste it. That's it. So if you just wanted to receive crypto payments, just get a crypto wallet, and you're done. In terms of, well, how much should I charge them? You just go on any of the crypto pricing sites, and you can convert anything into dollars, and you can just say, hey, it's $2,000 is 0.03 Bitcoin. Just make sure you pay me in the next 12 hours.
Right.
Something like that.
In this instance, we're talking about someone else who also has a wallet.
Okay. So yeah. So what if they don't? What if they have got a card, like a Visa card? Cool.
Yeah.
In that instance, you'll need a merchant service. Just like right now, all of your, do you promote to your community a particular merchant service at the minute?
No, but mostly because the CRMs that most yoga studios use have their own or partner up with a limited number of them. If we were to promote one for use for simplicity, it would be Stripe.
Okay, I like Stripe. As far as I know, Stripe currently don't do crypto payments. Hang on, I've just realized something. Your question then was, we're talking about someone that has a crypto wallet. If the buyer didn't have a crypto wallet, you wouldn't need to receive crypto anyway. You're only going to be receiving crypto if the sender wants to send crypto.
Right.
But let's say that you're that not advanced. Let's say you're that in the future that you're like, hey, I actually only want to receive crypto, which means you're all going to pay me in dollars, but I want to receive crypto. Right. In that case, you'd use a merchant service. The biggest ones out there are Coinbase, Commerce, Crypto.com, Merchant, and I'm just going to share this. Just can I share it privately and you can post it? Have a look. There's 19 different services. It's the biggest one I could find. And these merchant services link up with your crypto wallets. Some merchant services will receive crypto and convert it to fiat for you. So there's some people who are like, hey, I want to receive crypto, but I only want fiat. So I want to get paid in dollars. And then there's some services where you can receive crypto and keep the crypto. Again, this goes back to that early question, why? Why are you in it? What are you doing it for? You might want to receive crypto just to show your community that I'm on point, that I'm aware of what's going on and I'm here. The likelihood is, for low costs, you're not really going to get paid that much in crypto. Because the people that have got crypto probably aren't going to use it to buy a yoga class. But if they're going to pay for a 6-month subscription, maybe even a monthly subscription, definitely for things like retreats, different conversation altogether. So if you're looking to receive crypto, usually the sender will be sending crypto. So they've already got their wallets, they've already got everything. You just need to have a wallet to receive it, or you can plug in a merchant service just like Stripe. And when they go to checkout, it'll say, what do you want to pay in? And they'll say Ethereum. and it will automatically convert the dollar value to Ethereum. It'll give them an address to send it to. They send it, job done.
So,
does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It sounds so simple. So here's the follow-up to this then, and we do have a couple chat questions then too. If it is as simple as it sounds, why does this not have larger adoption? Why can I not, like, I don't know of any yoga studios I can go into and be like, yeah, I'll buy an annual pass. I want to pay in crypto, or that. Why is that not happening?
Couple of answers to that. Imagine we're in 1996. I'm an internet future guru person talking about how it's going to change the world and talking crazy mumbo jumbo talk on this call here. And you'd be like, well, why is no one making a website? The answer is this conversation right now. And everyone thinks they're behind the curve. Everyone thinks they're too late. Yeah. You have no idea how early you are.
Right.
No idea. Like, you talk about the ship sailed, the ship's not even watertight. We're still in the dock master building the ship. Like, you know, we've got a hose pipe every now and again wetting it down. That's about as much water's on it. We're not sailed. We're a long way off sailed. We're in 1996 of the internet. Today, the internet still only reached 5 billion people. There's 2.5 billion people on the planet that have never even used the internet yet. So we're so early in the curve. I think the last stat I saw is less than 2% of the planet have got a crypto wallet. Just let that sink in.
Yeah.
So when we start talking about adoption, yes, you're hearing the word crypto and you're hearing blockchain, but you think about it, most of the information and most of the news is that crypto is dodgy, bad, used by criminals, bad for the environment, bad for the planet. You know, was a naughty boy at school, you shouldn't go and play out with him, just stay at home. That's what we hear about crypto. So in terms of adoption, we're just so early. And my opinion for that is because large institutions are positioning themselves first. A lot of companies are being bought at the minute, and I think the next cycle that comes will be the retail cycle. I think in 4 years' time we will hit a tipping point, and the adoption of crypto will be huge. Which is why making your stance now, learning about crypto, having the facility to accept it, gets the muscle working, so that in 2, 3, 4 years, you're the one in your community that people are coming to say, how did you do that?
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. I've got you. So let's spin over to a couple of these questions here. Adi was asking, or she specifically posted, let me just scroll back up here. So instead of having a Venmo link to get tips on YouTube videos, could we put our wallet on there, or is that long wallet number, do you want to keep it private?
You want to keep it private. I can feel a political answer in me again. So let's tone it down. First of all, you do not need to keep you get 2 long numbers. You get an address and you get a secret one. The secret one's a secret. You keep that secret. I think of that like you like your password. The big address is what you would hand out. Yes, you're free to put that out there. However, there are features, and especially within YouTube, where you can get tips in different ways. So I'll share some things, people can write them down. BAT, B-A-T, stands for Basic Attention Token. And it was designed to do something called micro tipping, micro payments. I can't send a penny, a cent to someone at the minute. No service provider will allow me to tip somebody a cent, because people take their cut and there's just no money left. When you use things like BAT or XRP tip bot, you can receive micro payments, and there's whole industry spawning out of this. If the site doesn't allow for micro tips, then yes, she could, or that person, Adi, could put their address on there. But if they go to unstoppable domains, just like we have .com, unstoppable domains are .crypto addresses, and you can link a .crypto address to multiple wallets. So Adi could have addy.crypto. And anyone can send Ethereum to that, Bitcoin to that, XRP to that, Cardano to that, and it will automatically go to the correct wallet. So what .crypto addresses are trying to do is simplify the crypto space so that you don't have to remember a lot of addresses.
This is totally incredible. I didn't know about these details like this XRP tip bot and stuff at all. And my mind's just like thinking about the million ways that this is going to totally change things, like completely flip shit on its head, honestly. We are in obviously the digital era, but an element of this and yoga is heavily highlighted in yoga. It's why it's very much on our radar. We're in creator society right now. So what we're seeing more and more is a complete decentralization of how content is being created and services are being offered. For example, there's no such thing as the death of the yoga studio, but the traditional model of teachers teaching at yoga studios will become a specialized boutique experience moving forward. And the generalized participation in yoga will likely be through creator culture and centralizing apps. We're already seeing that anyways, but it will go further. When you have the ability to do what you're describing, it amplifies that a millionfold. So it's just, I don't know. It's really fascinating. It's really fascinating.
I see whole industries now. No, industry is the wrong word, and I'm going to try and encapsulate something here. But when we talk about the economy, all we're talking about is the movement of money. Yeah, and there may be people. We're in a yoga community. Like, I'm a deeply spiritual person. I see a future where we don't even need money, but we're in this interim space where we kind of need this token that passes around. It's how the world works at the minute. And so whatever we're going to move to, we need something transitionary. I imagine where there's just, when I'm browsing the internet, I use Brave browser. Brave browser is the same base code as Chrome. So it looks like Chrome, but it's not Chrome. And Brave automatically tips websites that accept BAT token. Brave was designed to have basic attention token built into it. When I'm using it, I've said yes to little pop-ups. So I get served little pop-up ads, and I just close them down, or I just swipe it. And I get paid in BAT. So me being on the internet, I am both choosing to say, you can serve me some ads and pay me for that. And I pay people who accept BAT just by being on their website. So the future that I see in terms of creator content is that there'll just be this movement of a thing, a token that goes around the world, just like oxygen, just like you have oil in a car or fuel in a car. And this movement is constantly tipping and paying eyes and attention. So the longer the eyeballs stare at something, be it a yoga video or, you know, a how-to video, some not just my energy, but the collective energy that I've collected by being served ads feeds into that, and that person feeds it into something else, and we have this whole ecosystem where everything just chills out a little bit, and that's the part of the world that I want to see come through, because then everything can carry on working with just grace and ease, just more fairness, let's say.
The movement is based solely off of the outcome and value being put into the world versus the other systems of exchange that we use, time for money, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, perfect.
It's a pretty awesome thought, actually. Okay, Rosa was asking, do you need to have a merchant wallet or can you use your personal wallet?
No such thing as a merchant wallet, personal wallet. Wallets are wallets.
Right, perfect.
That's it.
Rosa also is asking, can we talk about how to be efficient with mining fees?
I think, Rosa, can you just confirm if you mean exchange fees? Because we're not really talked about mining. So I'm assuming she means how do we be efficient about fees when we're sending things and tokens?
I think either way, let's dive in on that, because that would be part of payment processing for a business anyway. So
Cool. Can I just check, because I suddenly realized I assumed this was a 2-hour call, but I didn't know if I needed to speed up all of a sudden if it is a 1-hour call. Is there any time restriction? We're good.
Nope,
right?
We're good.
Because that's a really, really big question to answer. So fees. Not all coins. Yeah, not all tokens are made equal. Just like not all cars have the same fuel efficiency. Let me think about this. I want you to imagine you're going from point A to point. So first of all, some tokens by nature cost more. At one end of the spectrum, we have Bitcoin and Ethereum, which can sometimes cost as much as $100 to do a single transaction. And I've seen even more than that. These fees, by the way, are fixed. They're not percentage based. So if they vary depending on how much congestion there is on the network. But if today at this single moment it's $100, then it's $100 whether you're sending $1 or $1 billion. It's the same fee. It's not percentage based. Mosquitoes. So that's at one side of the spectrum. At the other end of the spectrum, love it or hate it, it's all that's coming to mind is XRP and Cardano, which are fractions of a cent, or a couple of cents to send. Okay. So here we have a couple of tokens over here and a couple of tokens over here with very, very, very different fees to send. The short answer is you can't change that. I can't make this cheaper. That's its fee. So depending on what token you're sending depends on what fees you're going to pay, which is why a bar that sells coffee for $2 is no one's really going to pay in Bitcoin. I think right now the fees for Bitcoin are about $20. Why would you spend $20 to pay something that's $2? Yeah. There's no answer to that, Rosa. That's it. However, the caveat is it is possible with some tokens to send that token on a different network. And when I say networks, think about each token as its own network. Cardano, which is a cryptocurrency, is a network. XRP is one. Ethereum is one. A Bitcoin is a network. It's a rail. That's what we call them, payment rails. If I was to say you're going to travel from, I don't know, New York to California, and I was to say, well, you could take a, let's have a think. You could take a bicycle and you could cycle there, or we could put the bicycle on the back of a pickup and drive you there and then take the bicycle off. You've still sent a bicycle, but how the bicycle got there was via a different means. So you can take Ethereum, which might have a fee today of $20, and you can use a completely different network's rail. I can take the Ethereum, put it on it, send it, and take it off, so long as the recipient can receive that new rail. So for example, one's called Tron, TRX. So you can send an Ethereum token, which is $20, but I can say, hey, don't send it on the Ethereum network, send it on the Tron network, but the recipient must be able to receive Tron. And when the recipient gets it, they now have got the fee, whatever it was you were sending. So that's why it's a yes and a no answer, if that makes sense. The network fees are the network fees. However, people have started to find new ways of what we call interoperability, where different chains are working with different chains, and you can kind of move tokens onto different chains and do stuff with them. So there is solutions, but that solution is not ubiquitous for everything. I can't just take a random token over here and put it on a random rail over here. It has to be, someone had to make that rail. Someone had to make that system. Does that make sense?
This does make sense, actually. So the follow-up to this in my mind would be these fees that are associated with one specific token, Bitcoin, for example. Is it like baked into the ethos of how this functions, how is that fee set? Who set that fee? Will it ever change to become a percentage if it's not currently
No, it'll definitely never become a percentage. The fee does change. It changes based on network congestion. So when a network, so all these cryptocurrencies, this is why I separate the word crypto from blockchain. All of these blockchains, Ethereum is a blockchain. All of them are thousands of computers around the planet performing calculations. And when there's a lot of calculations to do, the network adjusts and starts to charge more money to disincentivize people from using it to allow the congestion to calm down. And if you really need it, then you'll pay the fee. So this is built into, it's called the tokenomics of a token. So when someone's birthing or minting or the genesis, the first block of a blockchain, or even before that, you know, all of this information is written down in what's called a white paper. And all blockchains deal with this problem in different ways. Let's just get a little picture up if I can find one quick enough. If I can't, then I won't. The crypto trilemma. How do I share that? There you go. This is called the crypto trilemma. It's the 3 issues and problems within cryptocurrency that everyone's trying to solve. Decentralization, which is how do you make sure it's not got a single point of failure? Security, which is obvious, like how do you make sure it's not hacked, exploited, things like that. And the third one in the bottom corner is scalability. How do I make sure that what it is we're doing can scale? Because it's the scaling problem that's been the problem with Ethereum and a lot of tokens. As a token gets really big and popular and people use it, the fees go up. And then because the fees are up and now everyone's using it, everyone's trapped. And that's what's happened with Ethereum recently. So there are people constantly trying to work on this solution, because sometimes as soon as you answer scalability and make it cheap, you break the other 2. And all 3 need to, at the very, you know, you wouldn't want any one of them to drop, because what makes blockchain sometimes is that decentralization. So as soon as you decentralize it and put it everywhere, you can't just have a big computer and make it faster. That would be a centralized answer. So who sets these parameters is the person that makes the blockchain, and dependent on who makes it depends on how well it can be changed. The reason we can't change Bitcoin so easily is because Bitcoin is run by, last time, like on average, let's say 2,000 machines at any one time on the planet are running Bitcoin. And there could be another 10,000 that are turning on and off all the time. So if you want to change Bitcoin, you need to get consensus from everybody. And I could put 10 of us in a room. It's hard enough to get 10 of us to be on the same page and agree the same thing, let alone 10,000 super geeky nerds and rich people, all trying to, some are really pious and very much about the true core essence of blockchain and cyberpunk movement and where it came from, and, you know, F you to the government and all that stuff. And then the other end of the spectrum, you've got people that are like, hey guys, you know, it's not working a little bit, we'd like to make it a bit cheaper. And so there's a lot of factors involved, and you can get change because sometimes the whole community goes, that makes sense, and boom, change occurs. So at the minute, fees are just a necessary part of the greasing the wheels, because those fees get paid to the miners, and it's the miners who choose to leave their computer on running these calculations, which actually allows blockchain and Bitcoin and Ethereum and Cardano and all these to even be alive. Because if there's no fees, what's the incentive for a person to sit there spending energy keeping the system going? So it's kind of like, I see it more as a value exchange.
Makes sense. So Adi was just commenting again about the potential of accepting crypto and giving a discount to accept it so that people are incentivized to actually pay to it. The idea, I think that's an interesting take on it, like to be able to, incentivize people to want to participate with you on that level doesn't seem like a totally terrible idea if that's part of the ethos of your business. Do you see any reason why someone shouldn't do that, Daniel, versus always spot checking a specific, let's use Bitcoin as the obvious example here, like checking every day whenever there's going to be a transaction, the exact conversion rate that it's currently at?
Well, it depends how if someone's using a merchant service, it would be spot on, because in Addy's instance, they'd put it's 2,000, and the merchant service would show the buyer what to send. So at the back end, you'd see an invoice got created for $2,000, which happened to be 1 Ethereum, and it was paid, and then it would be converted back into dollars minus a 3% fee for payment services. So you wouldn't need to do any checking. The only time you'd need to do checking is if you own the wallet and you're just, I'm talking to you and you're like, how much is it? And I'm like, oh, it's this much. But it's just like anything in that instance. To begin with, it's going to be so minimal that it would be in a kit. You know, if you got paid, you'd either set the price, so you'd say, oh, here's my retreat, here's my PDF with my retreat on it. The price is $2,000 or 1 Ethereum or 0.026 Bitcoin. But you would either accept that in a week that could be worth more or less, and do you adjust it? So some people only, depends what your primary cost is. Some people will give a cost in pounds and dollars, and they understand, and I've done this before now, I've looked and I've gone, well, actually it's cheaper if I convert my pounds into dollars and pay them in dollars. And I'm willing to do that. So at the minute, if things are stable enough, you might put it out there in dollars and in cryptocurrency, and that's it. Or you can say it's $2,000 and we accept payment in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP. Contact us to arrange payment. And then you just give someone a 24-hour window and say, send it across.
Yeah.
And Addy also says there, it would feel like free money to clients. Yes. There are lots of people who have earned very well off crypto, and this is their disposition to do so, would like to keep that in their wallet there. However, if they could send some of that to someone else and receive something in exchange, that works very well for them. If they choose to play that game and they're not declaring their crypto, that's their thing to do. I don't promote anybody to or to not declare anything. But to answer Addy's question there is, if someone, if you offer that out to people, you would be very surprised how many people in your community are sat on crypto, but they just don't talk about it. It's like this secret thing, you know, as soon as you say crypto, people are like, what was that? And before you know it, a whole conversation explodes and people are like, yeah, I got into it 4 years ago. Shh. And so you'd be very surprised.
I think that's true in most circles. We've recently, there's just a huge nomad culture where I am in Mexico here. And I swear it's the #1 conversation. You just walk around downtown and anyone younger than 30 is just talking about crypto and how they have all this crypto money. Like, it's a really interesting place, but that's
I like to call it magic internet money.
Yeah.
It's the same over here in Playa Carmen. Rosa asked a question here. I just want to clarify something, because they've said, you know, how do we make it cost efficient? If I'm paying $3,000 payment, I've paid $100 for the payer to send it, and then $100 to convert it. The only fee, or the biggest fee, is the sender. So sometimes, depends on your setup. You may say to the sender, it's $3,000. At which point, if that's all you say, they will send you $3,000 worth of crypto. They will pay the fee. They're in crypto. They accept that the benefit of you accepting crypto costs them to send it. So you haven't actually paid a fee. They paid the fee. You may choose to say, and they may negotiate on this, they may say it's $3,000 to the course, and then I might say, do you mind paying the fee? And then you are well within your rights to say no, or I'll split it with you, or whatever. And at the minute, if it's Bitcoin, it's only $20 as a fee. And let's say it is $100, and you might say, well, hang on, why don't we do this? Why don't you send it using Cardano? And then it's going to be like a pound, $1. And so you agree. And as soon as you receive that Cardano, you just exchange it for whatever you want. If you want Bitcoin, exchange it for Bitcoin. And when you exchange it, you won't pay a fee. And if you want it in your bank, transfer it to USD, you won't pay a fee. The only fee is for the sender, and that fee is relative to the network. So if it's $100 thing, then $20 is 20%. So you might say to them, look, I tell you what, send it on this network here, and then, but I want you to pay the fee. To a place to, okay. Rosa said that they have to spend money to send it from their wallet to an exchange. Yes. So if the wallet that you're using is a private wallet, then when you send it to an exchange, that is exactly the same. Let me put my hands here. That is exactly the same as the customer sending it to you. So customer sends it to you, there's a fee. If you have to send it to the exchange, there's a fee. But if you give them a wallet that's on an exchange, they send it straight to the exchange. Does that make sense? So right, if you're going to be using this instance, use a wallet on an exchange, because then you've got full flexibility.
So then a really practical benefit of offering to people to pay in crypto for like these big purchases like a retreat or teacher training could be that instead of you paying the credit card processing fees to the bank, it's them paying the fee, or you can even roll that into the cost. And it's not, so that could be a really good benefit for the studios.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things that when you're accepting crypto, there's usually more of a conversation. Do you know what I mean? It's not commonplace. So the fact you're even accepting it, they'll be excited. And I think we're in such a trailblazing, pioneering space that in Mexico right now, some places, last night, for example, it was our anniversary last night, went for a really lovely meal. And I was really surprised when I walked in, they went, oh, by the way, it's a 3% credit card charge if you're paying on card, credit card, debit card. And there's a little, and obviously I say that's fine, but there's a part of me, and I'm like, oh, then this is the most expensive meal I've had out here, full stop. In fact, maybe even for a long time. And there's a part of me that's like, you should be absorbing the fee. I get it when I go to some place and I buy a pack of chewing gum, and they're like, oh, there'll be a 3% charge on that. Cool. All I've got is my card. I accept. You're not going to absorb that fee. So my point is that even over here right now in 2021, there's people charging me for their processing fee. Crypto is no different. It's a conversation. And if you turn around to a customer and say, I can accept crypto, but you'll have to pay the fee, but I allow multiple options. So these are the really cheap networks. If you want to use these, that's fine. Then at least you're giving them the option. You're being flexible. If you say I only take Bitcoin, then they will be paying a $15 to $30 fee.
Right. It's a good point, because this conversation comes up often. Depending on the system studios use, they may not have any control or say in what fees are associated with their payment processing. And also across the board, basically every payment processor is increasing fees, and Venmo has recently announced how they're going to start incorporating fees because everyone thought they were hacking the system for the last year and doing it all for free. Like, there's always going to be fees basically for using any sort of system that's moving finance around. So just being smart about it.
And at least when you're paying fees in crypto, they're going to people.
Right. It's not just grabbing more money. I think that is a good point, because from a ethical principle standpoint as well, what people don't realize is a lot of the larger companies that we all do business with on the regular, they really make their money in payment processing. Amazon makes their money in payment processing. MindBody Online takes a 1 to 1.5% payment processing. Like, it's insane how much money they actually make off of that, way beyond the other stuff that is getting paid to them. So
that's why everybody wants to be like, there's an old what's the old saying, like, in the gold rush, don't be the person digging for gold, be the person selling shovels. So
yeah,
when you're dealing with finance and everything, if you can have a couple of $1 million moving through your platform a day, and you're taking 0.025%, you're making a lot of money that is 100% profit.
right.
I mean, it's ridiculous. That's what I mean about like finance. The amount of it's worse than sucking. Like the amount that goes that is within this whole system that keeps everything moving. The amount that's siphoned. That's what I was looking for. The amount that's just siphoned off, and fees, and everyone's taking their cut throughout it. It makes it more unfair, not unfair, but more unfair for the whole world to operate. If I want to send $5 to my family or to my friend in India right now, I can't, because my bank doesn't even talk to that. That's assuming he even has a bank. He's probably, like in Africa, most payments are all done on are all mobile phone payments to each other. So the amount of hops it's got to make to do that is just ridiculous. That it just wouldn't happen, because the system's geared up to send large sums of money. So I think that when we're looking at things like crypto, there's some really good solutions. And I just want to caveat this, because if there's any Bitcoin maximalists that listen to this, you have a thing called the Lightning Network on Bitcoin. And if we can get more adoption on Lightning Network is fractions of a cent to, I've seen it, it's there. I do apologize. Sorry, I thought I'd lost something. The Lightning Network is fractions of a cent to send a Bitcoin transaction. But again, it requires the recipient to be on the Bitcoin Lightning Network as well. It's a little bit more complex to talk about here, but if people use a site code, I think it's called Blue Wallet. I can hear some of my friends shouting at me over the corner of my shoulder as I don't know the answer to this. It is called Blue Wallet. Thank God. Okay, it's called Blue Wallet. And if people can accept Blue Wallet as a method of payment, and this is what I'm trying to increase adoption in recently, is in the Lightning Network. If you can have that set up to be able to receive Bitcoin and Bitcoin on the Lightning Network, a bit like those payment rails I talked about, we'll keep it really simple. It means you can send a Bitcoin payment for fractions of a cent. And that's the big question that I've been asking recently when I discovered it more and more. And I'm like, why is this not mainstream? Why is this not bigger, even in crypto? Most people just don't talk about Lightning. So it's new for me, is understanding it, and I want to understand it a little bit more. But I know this from my friends that are super Bitcoin through and through. The easy answer is Blue Wallet.
Tying into wallets, we had a question earlier that we sort of missed a little bit, but it makes me think about this too. Can a business own a wallet, or is it only people that own a wallet? They say, I have a business partner with our studio and I'm wondering what we would do. This follow-up question that I have with this is, can one entity have multiple wallets?
Okay, so first of all, you can have as many wallets as you want. There's no limit to how many wallets of any coin and any network you could have. You can have 1,000 Bitcoin wallets if you want. The bigger question becomes, what is ownership? How do you own a wallet in joint names when Bitcoin requires no identification? What is ownership? Hey guys. And so but I'm gonna try and answer this through through the legal framework of merchant services. If you register for a merchant service, then you would register for that merchant service in your company name. Just like your Stripe account. As far as I know, your Stripe account can only be linked to a bank account that's got the same name as the Stripe account.
Yep.
Yeah. That's so that they know that they're the same. So when you're registering for a merchant service, it's exactly the same. If you're not using a merchant service and you're using a private wallet. I'm thinking about Rosa earlier saying how they've got a wallet and they have to pay fees to send it to the exchange. That tells them that this is a private wallet. This is the origins of crypto. In this instance, you're talking about sovereign money. We talk about this a lot in our group, like sovereign finance. That means, you own it. No one can take it away. There's no back door. If you forget your username and password, there's nothing you can do. It's like owning gold and putting it in a safe. And in fact, that's a bad example because you could break the safe to get into it. There's no back door. If you forget your password for your bank and you wait 10 years, you can walk into that bank with a passport and say, this is me. And yeah, you might have to fill in a lot of forms and pull out half your hair, but you will gain access to your bank account. That doesn't exist in crypto. Crypto is sovereign money. And as human beings, we have never had to flex the muscle of sovereign finance. Never. We've never had the responsibility of owning something of value. The closest thing is gold, but most people don't own gold, like gold coins. We might own gold earrings. So if you've got a company and you're using merchant services, then you would probably sign up with the company name, and it would be normal. That's your entity. I am the Yoga Club New York Limited or LLC, and you'd sign up in that same guise. If you own a wallet and you're a company, then you have to have trust. Because if me and Kay are in a business together and we both have access to that wallet, because in theory it doesn't have a name attached to it, it's just a wallet, she could take all the money out of it and run away. And I can't go after her because there's no legal framework that says that wallet was mine in the first place. And this is where cryptos are. It doesn't exist within the framework of traditional finance, which is why, going back to that earlier conversation about FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that's why the traditional finance system has so much issues with it, because it's growing so fast. And the financial system's like, how do we put you in this box? And there's a huge push at the minute to make anonymous wallets illegal, because they don't like anonymous wallets, because anyone can have them and have assets and finance and grow, and you own it. And they're like, yeah, but you're used to trusting us. We're the bank. We have your best interests at heart. And you're like, no, you don't. I'd rather keep it out here. And so there's this whole, we're in a very, it's not formed. It's still very wobbly at the minute. There are solutions if you want to have an anonymous wallet, a private wallet, sorry, with a partner. You can have things like multi-signature. So to transact here, Kay has to sign and I have to sign. So there are solutions, but the earlier question around tech and where I tend to lay my hat is simplicity. If you haven't got trust with your partner who you're working with anyway, especially in the yoga community where we're, by and large, there's a lot more heart, what have you got? I mean, trust is the ultimate currency. It's the ultimate currency on the planet. And if you can't trust who you're working with, you probably shouldn't be working with them.
Makes sense to me. So Rosa also had a question about resources, which is actually one on our list as well. And then I want to spin over to tax questions, because I think that's naturally where this ends up too. But going back to the trust conversation too. But do you have any YouTube resources that you would recommend for people learning about different exchanges or wallets? Or do you have ones that you would just recommend other than, we have Blue Wallet here that we've recommended earlier?
Every country is different. That's the first thing. YouTube is fantastic, but because we're talking about an unregulated industry, it has more not fantastic stuff on it than it does have fantastic stuff. A bit like the news. Most stuff in the news isn't serving you. However, there's some good news. There's some useful things out there. So if you're going to go on YouTube, I can recommend some things. I don't want to self-promote here or anything, but this is why we made Future Leaders today as a group, to answer these sorts of questions, because then if people kind of come with what they're looking for, we can point them at something. It's all free of charge. And we did it because there's just so much noise out there. We were like, well, we wanted to create a safe space that would allow newbies and questions and things like that, because I can't really answer. The exchanges I've already talked about are ones that I generally recommend: Binance, KuCoin, Kraken would be the top 3. And no matter what country you're in, you can access at least one of those legally. You can access all of them if you use a VPN. That is your choice how you want to do that. That would technically be breaking local jurisdiction law. Yeah. So this is why it all comes back to the big question of why you're here in the first place. If you don't care about that and you're about the future and something else and all these other things, then you're like, I'm going to access them. If you're here because you want to accept Bitcoin and tick all the right boxes, then you might only be able to accept one of them. So there's a few questions to answer within it, but those 3 exchanges are the best. And if I was to recommend anything on YouTube, that I could trust would be Coin Bureau. And so that we're really clear, I'm going to get his actual link, because there's that many scams on on YouTube, and people pretending to be people. This guy is by far one of the most genuine people I've seen in crypto. Where's your link? That. There you go.
Yep. I'll post it in here. Rosa is asking the follow-up. Is there anything wrong with Coinbase or Binance?
No. Binance was on my list. Binance, KuCoin. Binance, KuCoin, Kraken are the top 3 that I would recommend. Why? They're safe. I trust them. They've been in the industry a long time. I don't put Coinbase on there purely because I don't believe that Coinbase is for the betterment of the crypto industry and for people. They are by far one of the largest brand names out there, and they're not going anywhere. And do I trust them to be there? Yeah. But whenever there's market turbulence and all of a sudden everything's going up, Coinbase stops working. When everything's going down and people are trying to sell, Coinbase stops working. Someone once did the parallel between every time Coinbase has an outage and what's going on in the market. And that's not fair. It's like become a running joke. If all of a sudden there's a dump and everyone's trying to sell, Coinbase servers go down.
Yeah.
It's too perfectly timed. I think their fees are astronomical, and they don't list coins that people want. They list coins that they have a vested interest in and are making a lot of money off.
It's a for-profit organization. Yeah.
Well, they're all for-profit, but there's for-profit only with my best interests. Yeah. And I just I don't promote them because I try and promote things that are a bit better for everything, and I don't think Coinbase is necessarily doing that. And I might be totally wrong.
Starting points. So one thing that you mentioned too is jurisdiction. So we're talking about this decentralized, free from jurisdiction concept of blockchain, but then we're talking about exchanges that then fall under jurisdiction, and then there's control, such as, and I experience this firsthand all the time because being in Mexico, but then we're Canadian. We just notice a really simple example is like Netflix. It's different in every country. When we're back in Canada, we're watching a series, and then we come to Mexico and want to finish watching this series, and we can't access it anymore because without a VPN, because we're just in a different place. So I guess the question though is, if this is a decentralized system, why do these fall under jurisdiction? It's just because of where whoever set up the exchange themselves reside, or what do we see with that? Do we think that that element of it will also eventually become decentralized?
Okay. You are the asset. You are the entity which the government is looking at, the
Right.
jurisdiction is concerned with. It's not about crypto. It's not about anything. It's about you. It's always about you. Every government, I refer to it, I suppose you said the S word earlier. I refer to it as your bitch tag. Like it's like being a dog and a dog owner, and it's like, well, who owns that dog? I own, and it's like this tag around your neck is the tax tag. And every jurisdiction wants to know, have you got a tax tag? Oh, you have. Oh, okay. And if you haven't, they're like, ooh, you've not got a tax tag. So it doesn't matter where you live. Where's your tax tag?
Right.
That's the big question. Now, as a USA resident, your tax tag, unless you work very hard at it, it
follows
you're
you.
a tier 4 tax country. It follows you everywhere.
Yeah.
Most people are in a tier 3 tax country, which means you're taxed according to residency. You're taxed according to citizenship. That's why it follows you, unless you renounce that citizenship. So when we're talking about tax, and when we're talking about jurisdictions and all of these things, with the jurisdictions of the exchanges, I'll take, what can I take? I'll take Binance as an example. As a USA resident, not citizen, as a resident, you can't access Binance because Binance isn't allowed to allow Americans on, because the SEC has said so. So Binance made Binance.us. American citizens can access that, and it's like a massively reduced, stripped down offering of services. If you used a VPN, you access whatever you want. If you did that, technically speaking, you're not meant to do that. Then in the UK, you're also not meant to get a tape recorder and tape the radio. So there's whole lines where people draw the lines. I do not promote in any way, shape, or form someone to break any laws, but it's understanding why that happens and how that occurs. So then when you leave USA and you're in Mexico and you can access Binance.com, is that illegal? I have no idea, because
Yeah.
Mexico haven't said you can't access it. Well, then as an American citizen, I actually don't know the answer to that. Yeah. But it's just good to understand why all of a sudden it works. And you're like, okay, cool. And you can make your own decisions on it. Like, the world's whatever place you wish to make it. When it comes to tax, it's pretty much the same thing. It's like you can, when you're earning crypto or making money off crypto, whatever you've got, some of that crypto will have your name attached to it and some of it won't do, which is why we always recommend people to create a company. If a company buys crypto and makes money off it, the company is taxed, not the individual. As an individual, if you own assets, whatever it is, gold, silver, coins, property, crypto, anything, it's the most inefficient tax system on the planet. If you're going to earn any sort of money from a wealth perspective, always wrap it in a company.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to buy crypto with your identity attached to it and all of these things, and declare it, everything that comes with that, and you're starting out, create an account in the name of a company, because any profits that makes is taxed according to local company law, which is always more efficient than you as an entity. Josh, is it Biro or Biro? Biro. Josh Biro, as a human entity within the IRS system or whatever country, HMRC, whatever country you're in, is you'll always pay more tax per 1,000 pounds, dollars worth of profit that you've made compared to an LLC, as an example. I'm not a tax advisor. Please do not take this as tax advice, but in general, that's been my experience.
So then the extension of this is, what are some other maybe tax implications of crypto? Let's suppose Adi earlier was saying, I received $1,000 value of Bitcoin. It's now worth $8,000. I mean, it's been so volatile in the last year, 2 years, that it was totally possible with Bitcoin, at least, that growth would have happened within the same fiscal year, even for a business. So what does this mean for taxation? What would the considerations there be from running it in your business standpoint?
Think of it like this. If you buy a house for 100,000 and in 2 years it's worth 200,000 and you do not sell it, you still keep it, do you owe any tax?
No.
Same as crypto. You
So
only
it's
owe
only when
tax
you're transferring it back to the fiat currency that's the moment where.
No, not necessarily. You only ever pay tax when you have made a profit or a loss. You can't make a profit or a loss until you have sold the asset. It doesn't matter what you sell it into. If I buy blue cups for $10 and I sell the blue cups for green cups, bad example, I sell the blue cups for flasks, there is a value of this at the time of purchase and there's a value of this at the time of sale. I would pay tax on that. I've not sold into fiat, I've not sold into dollars, but I've changed the asset from one asset to another. So that's when this is, every country is slightly different, but the general sweeping brush is when you have to swap it for something else, if the taxman could look at it and say, pause, well, right now in this single moment, just before we exchange, there's a value, what's the word they use? Fair market value. Right. Yeah. What's the fair market value of your 10 cups? What's the fair market value of this? And if you bought the cups for $10 and you've got 10 of them, that means you spent $100. If the fair market value of this at the time of this exchange is $1,000, then you could argue that these 10 cups are worth $1,000. Therefore, you made $900. And that's the point at which the tax would be the gain or the loss, because it could go the other way. If you can pay tax on profits, you can also get reimbursements on losses. And that's called tax harvesting.
Interesting.
And then I want to say this, there is software that does all this for you. Don't get overwhelmed by all this. You connect it into the exchanges, it pulls everything in, a little bit of a checking on it, but it spits out a report at the end of a year. You choose what country you're in, you say I'm an American, it spits out the form, you give it to your accountant, it literally tells you to the penny, to the cent, how much profit or loss you made and every single transaction. So if you ever got investigated, it's all there in plain black and white.
Right. Right. And then it's just the same as any other taxable anything. I'm just thinking about, I'm just thinking about in yoga studios some time ago, this didn't officially happen, but there may have been rumors in the world of yoga around cash transactions, specifically like a mat rental or a towel rental where it's just $1 or something. And that just like went into the fishbowl. And at the end of the week, that was what bought dinner kind of thing. And it wasn't really recorded well anywhere. This to me is where I see this is, potentially the new version of that, or it runs that risk, which
it's a really difficult one. Like it's real because there's so many questions that come around with tax. Like I'm pro tax. Like we need schools and hospitals and roads and all of these things that are there. And at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, I don't like war. I just don't. And
right.
so much of tax goes towards that. And I've had whole debates like, what's fair and what's right? And well, the government says this, and you're like, yeah, but if you disagreed with that, it's a really what do they call it? It's an existential question. Like, there is no answer to this other than the answer you prescribe to it. Because I would never recommend someone to, as soon as you start stepping outside the law, that comes with consequences that you have to bear the risk of. And when it's $1 for towel rentals, we don't think about it. But crypto, you got to remember earlier on, I said the 3 differences between blockchain and the internet. With blockchain, everything is recorded. You cannot get away from it. So the person earlier that says, oh, I put my, I'm going to put my public address on my YouTube videos to receive tips. if I put my IRS hat on, I come and have a look, and I'm like, oh, I noticed your video, your things on there. Let's have a look at. I could pull up that address. I could right now, and see every single cent ever sent to it. Well, I'll pull up her tax record. Oh, she says she's never received cryptocurrency. Well, I know that's a lie.
Right. It's in the public ledger that literally anyone can access at any moment to see what's moved around and through.
Yeah. So there's a whole. Don't think crypto is anonymous and private. And okay, you've got privacy coins, and even they come with risks around them. Like governments don't like privacy coins, and there's arguments to say if you start using them, that governments might be like, why are you using a privacy coin? Even the argument of privacy. Some people think, well, the only people that care about privacy are people that are evil and they're bad people. Whereas should privacy be a human right? Why do I have to be bad to want to keep some of my affairs private? Like there's a whole debate around it. So could this be the new fishbowl thing? Of course it could, but just understand that all this comes back to why. Why are you doing this? Why are you getting into it? Because you can open up a whole can of worms for when actually you didn't want to open up those kind of worms. You just wanted to receive crypto.
Yeah. No,
but then if you treat it like a fishbowl, the IRS could come along and go, hang on, that's a big fishbowl.
Well, obviously for us, running the risk of doing anything that isn't 100% above board is just silly, because it's not only a huge hassle for you and ultimately could cost you more, it costs you beyond just the financial element of it too. You lose your business over this sort of stuff. So, but
it's not worth it.
I think it's an important detail that the transparency, actually, it's the reverse of privacy in this instance. It's actually so transparent that that's part of the safety net with it actually as well. So that's it's kind of cool. So then on an exchange itself, and then I want to move us to a recap, unless there's anything else you want to add in here, Daniel. On an exchange itself, two questions here. If I have Bitcoin and I want to use it to buy Ethereum, are there fees involved in that transaction within the same exchange?
There's always fees, full stop.
Right. Okay.
It's just easier. They change massively, because if you're on an exchange, anything you own on an exchange, you actually don't own. So until I send that money off an exchange, all an exchange really is doing is they've got all of your assets and value and money. They're just moving numbers across the screen. I had 1 Bitcoin, I've sold it for 10 Ethereum. So they just put 0 and 10. They haven't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
But when you want to send those 10, they'll go and find 10 and send it for you. Does that make sense? So yeah. The only time on an exchange you pay a fee is they'll have exchange fees, and that might be like 0.025. It'll be fractions, yeah. But people are exchanging millions and millions every minute, every day, so they make a fortune. So the fees to exchange from coin A to coin B on an exchange are insignificant compared to the fees, the network fees, to transfer a coin from you to me on the network. Yep. Does that make sense?
Where there's the actual work, hence network, is being done, so to speak. That does make sense. Yeah. So then can we just recap really quick? I think the number one question that we had come in from the business side for running a yoga studio or even an online yoga business is, how do I participate with my business in this? So if I'm understanding, you're going to need to have a wallet. Likely it's going to be a business wallet under that entity's name. You have to have an exchange, or you're likely going to need an exchange to be able to actually exchange things. And that's it. Is there what are we missing here?
No, I would say before all of that, if you want to do this, I just start telling your community, I now accept cryptocurrencies. Like, be fed by them. You don't have to go and fix all the answers, because if you just tell people, as soon as someone says, oh, brilliant, can I pay for that yoga retreat next week? You've now got a bit of an impetus, a stimulant to kind of go, oh, wow. You'd actually be more energized to solve the problem necessarily, because there's so many coins. Even if you went and got an exchange and a wallet, I mean, there's 10,000 coins out there. I only recommend for your community like the top, 10, 15 maximum. But you could spend a load of work opening up all these wallets and no one uses one. Just go out, pick Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, Cardano, Polkadot, that's 6, on USDT, 7. Pick any of those, put the logos on there, tell your community, and then do everything you talked about. Get an exchange so that you have one. Get verified so that it's done. That I would say that is a key part. That verification is called KYC. Stands for Know Your Customer. This is the difference between the anonymous world of crypto and the identified world of crypto. Over here, we don't know who anybody is. Over here, you have declared, this is my passport or my company documents or whatever, and I own that wallet, or I own this account on an exchange. So I would recommend for people to go and set themselves up on an exchange with a corporate account, a business account. If they can't, and you're a sole trader or you're working on your own, set it up in your own name, but just tell your accountant that, this is in my name, but it's my business account. Right. I would imagine that's okay. Double check all of this, but I would imagine there's tons of people that have done that. Because Rosa said there, what are the top 10?
That was going to be my next question too.
So I'm kind of wrapping them in together. So, I mean, I'm looking at the top 10 now. Let me just share. Just going to share this page. You see that? So sites like this, coin, can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So sites like CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, I'll show you this one. These two sites are aggregators. They show you the rankings of all the coins. I find this one a bit more complex though, so I'm just going to go back one. This one's a lot simpler. CoinGecko.com. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the top. Well, this is all the coins in order. So if I was to be accepting coins and I was doing it manually using just giving people wallets, I would accept Bitcoin. Oh, it's not going to work. I'd accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, Binance, Cardano, XRP. I would not accept Dogecoin. USD coin, Polkadot. And I'd probably still accept Litecoin because it's still a very big known one. And I'd accept them because they're stable, more stable, let's say. Dogecoin is a meme token, and although it's done very, very well, it is highly fluctuating in price. And also it was designed pretty much as a joke. It was designed as let's just see if we can make a coin and make it do well. So I'd start with the big ones that have got proper companies behind them that are very stable, very big, and very out there. I'd pick an exchange. I'd register on the exchange. I'd tell my community I accept them, and I refer to crypto as a coffee percolator. That whole process will challenge you. The documentation. As soon as you log onto the site, and there's all these numbers and flashing things, and it's a growth curve, but like anything, everything's a growth curve. The first time you do your yoga, it challenges you. Well, every time you do yoga, it challenges you, especially the better you get at it. So it's just starting this process. Like earlier on, you said, who should get into Bitcoin, crypto? Everybody. In a few years, your ability to understand, talk about, and work within the blockchain space will be directly linked to your position within ability to help others, ability to understand new technologies that comes through. If you're still sat here now in 2021 refusing to get a website, that's impacting, or refusing to go on the internet, that's impacting your ability to interact with the world that we're living today.
Yeah.
And I believe in high tech, high nature. Like I am pro walking mountains, rivers, and streams, and meditation and consciousness, and all of these beautiful things that we have on this planet. But I'm also pro-tech. Technology is like a knife. But the question is, are you buttering bread or stabbing someone? Like our relationship with technology is poor especially if you're born before 1990. We have this love-hate relationship with it. It's just a tool. The question is, how do we use that tool, and what are we using it for? And blockchain is just another tool. And I believe it is a tool that's going to help humanity and help things become more simple. So the sooner you can get into it, the sooner you can play with it, the more comfortable you get, because that coffee percolator fills up the cup and you start to understand what sort of roasted coffee beans you've got and what they taste like and how it works with milk, and do I want sugar or other sweetener choices.
I've got you. Cool. I think it's a good recommendation. This is a perfect segue kind of to close us out. So any final questions for those of you guys who've stuck on with us, go ahead and post them right now. But sort of final thoughts, anything to leave us with, Daniel? You know, we've covered a lot of ground today, and I think it's going to definitely, there'll be people rewatching this to sort of rehash through what's going on. Any final thoughts or anything else you want to add that we sort of didn't cover?
I probably would just reiterate a little bit of what I just said at the end there. I work a lot with relationships of technology, of finance, and consciousness, and I'm a big fan of technology for good. Just like you talk about businesses being vehicles for change. Yeah, it's absolutely, I am 100% in line with. Technology isn't evil. People are like, oh, phones, look at what they've done to humanity. Phones did nothing to humanity. Humans did it. There's always humans. Like, without this, we wouldn't be talking to each other today. So I just think that there's this, there is a poor relationship with some technology, even though we use it every single second of every day. And I think that the sooner people can find good relationship with blockchain and this super evil word, AI, we won't even get into, you know, and we put all this energy into it when really they're just things. And the question is our relationship with it and how we use it. And if I have a better relationship with technology, I can help those around me have a better relationship with technology. And I just think that that's the big thing I want to leave people with. Blockchain will change our world way more than the internet has. Just look at how much the internet has changed our world. Look at how much social media has changed our world, good and bad, all of these things. And so I encourage and I invite everyone to just take some steps forward, whether that's personally investing, whether that's setting it up with their business. And if you don't want to go through all the rigmarole and all the hassle, just tell your customers you accept crypto. Just start the conversation. Like, adoption occurs when you adopt. If we're all sat like this going, well, no one else is doing it, somebody has to go, all right, well, I'll do it.
Right.
And then everyone's like, oh, brilliant, I want to do it. Like, if you want adoption, if you want a fairer world, especially with regards to finance, do something. And crypto is the best thing I've seen to create a more fairer world for everybody. And until I find something better, that's where I'll put my time into it, and that's why I encourage it. So that would be my closing remarks. Love it.
Daniel, if someone wants to get a hold of you or wants to learn more about what Future Leaders Today does, or is there some contact info we can put in the chat here? Should they just comment here and we'll get it over to you? How could they reach out to you in some way, or is that something that you do? Yeah, sure. If they want to get in touch with me, then they can just go on danielhelenko.com. I'll just share that with you there. But the easiest way is to join our group. We work on Telegram, so that bit.ly link is a Telegram link. If people are not familiar with Telegram, I encourage people to get it. Think of it like blue WhatsApp mixed with Facebook. Like it's an instant messaging chat space, but it's far more capable than where WhatsApp is. So the whole crypto world is on Telegram, pretty much. Right. So that link is for our FLT community. You can join there. We have calls every 2 weeks. And if you wanted to get in touch with me specifically around crypto, then the group is a good place to start. I do one-to-ones and groups, but not much these days. Most of the help and support myself and Richard give is within that group. And I generally encourage people to get as much free support as they can before they start paying for it, because as you know, businesses
hemorrhage money left, right, and center. So we offer a decent amount of support in that group. But if people want to get in touch with me, you can go to my website, send me an email, fill in a form. But if you join the group, I mean, I'm live in it every hour, so you'll see me in there as well.
Awesome. Daniel, I really appreciate your time today. I know that we stuck it out long and covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure there's so much more we could talk to. For those of you guys stuck with us too, thank you for coming on. And for any of you guys who are new watching this or after the fact, go ahead and reach out to Daniel so you can get hooked up, or join his Telegram, as he was just saying, so you can sort of figure this out for your business. But I think my closing remarks would just be to echo what you're saying, that realizing that we are still really early in this entire thing, and early adoption is something that will just give you the leg up moving forward. So if anything that the last year has shown us, it's that at any moment in time, a lot of things can change very quickly. So being as prepared as possible is probably a good idea. And I think that this totally fits that MO. So thanks again. I really appreciate it, Daniel. And we'll talk to you again soon. Peace, everybody.
Thanks very much, Josh. Thanks, everyone.